I love being an entrepreneur and hosting this top 2.5% global show to bring you authentic talks with successful founders of companies and brands. My entrepreneurial journey started after I was left for dead. Let's learn the impactful journey of today's guest now.
It's so exciting. It's kind of like this adrenaline rush that you get every day where things keep falling into place and you're kind of running with it. And I don't know if we'll ever get to normal because my family is as crazy as I am. And we're like, every time we hit like a sales goal or hit some benchmark, we're like, let's break through it. Let's try to break, and so we never know what the ceiling is. We just want to keep doing it.
We're missing glasses, but we're gaining an awesome guest, the Willy Wonka of the Midwest. Dan, thank you for joining us here on That Entrepreneur Show.
Thank you so much for having me. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing great. Luckily, I've got a guest to help me without doing too much reading here today. But again, he's got two awesome chocolate companies. They call him the Willy Wonka of the Midwest. Dan, we're going back in time. Why did you want to do this, become an entrepreneur?
I grew up in it. My parents started a small candy company, and I was that kid at like 6 and 7 years old where it would be spring break or summertime, and I would want to go in and help my dad in the candy kitchen. So, instead of going to the pool in the summertime, instead of going to camp. And so I was just crazy from a very young age.
I like how you said that, the crazy we have in as entrepreneurs because of the ups and downs. When you were getting started, finally on your own, what were some of the harder parts of being an entrepreneur for you?
The kind of losing that safety net. There was a time, it was about 2010. So we acquired a small candy company, and it was probably there's kind of those breakthrough moments. If I were to write a book, this would be like that first macro thing where we bought this little company, and it basically changed the business forever in such a great way. And it was only 15 minutes away, but the whole family previously, we all worked in one building, and, every decision I would say, and every big decision I would say, hey, Dad, what do you think? And I actually moved to the new space, and I kind of was the guy that everybody went to. And it took a minute to get used to. At first I'd phone the main office like every 10 minutes, like, oh, I need to order this. What do you think? And okay, do it, and then I just started kind of becoming more autonomous. And so I think that was a really good part for my own development, to kind of be on my own island in a way.
You mentioned something there. You acquired another company.
Mm-hmm.
Let's walk our audience through that. Maybe someone who has those goals, or they're about to acquire a company, they may be forgetting something. Maybe you can help them out.
So this was kind of like the greatest story ever told. So,
all right.
We now own Bissinger's, and we acquired Bissinger's in 2019, but rewind back to 2009. So 10 years. Yeah. 10 years before, there was this little candy company in St. Louis called Lake Forest Confections. And we were really growing. My sister and I were involved in the business at that time. Now it's my brother, sister, and I. And so two of the three of us were out of college, out of school, full-time in the business. We had grown up working in it, but now this is, our career path, and growing, trying to grow in wholesale, trying to grow in retail, trying to go. And because of that, we had really outgrown our infrastructure. And so we needed to take that next step. And my dad had been friends with this other candy company, and it was the previous owner of Bissinger's, and he had sold it. He had sold the company about 10 or 12 years before that, and his non-compete had run out, and some of his former employees were looking for a job. And so he created a small little candy company to give them all jobs and work with them. And so we came in and said, how can we work together? We want to grow. And he didn't really want to be there 40 hours a week running this business. He did this as a business for his core team. And so we kind of came in and we said, we'd love to, buy this business and work with your team and grow it. And that's what we did. So I came in at, a couple years out of college, growing up and working in the candy business my entire life, with this new team who are these truly amazing artisans. And I learned so much from them. So you think, the industry and you think, and then it was like this whole new education of a side of candy making that we had never done before. And so I moved over to that business. And so we had like the original Bissinger's team and kind of like the core of what that culture was at one time. And then we grew the business from wholesale and different projects and built this big facility from the success of, learning how to make really good handmade chocolates. And then 10 years later, when the big, opportunity to buy Bissinger's happened, we had the team, we had the people, we had the lineage, the head candy maker at Lake Forest, who is still our head candy maker today.
Wow.
Is the son-in-law of the former head candy maker who had been Bissinger's head candy maker for 45 years. So like the knowledge that, from that. It was just this incredible thing. And that was, the greatest education I've ever had, because I wasn't it wasn't like the family member son where, I grew up working with these people. I was pushed in a new environment and we had, we learned, we did everything, we opened the store, we swept the floors, we made candy, we cut caramel, everything we did. And it was so hands-on. And that's my favorite part about the business. I love being hands-on in our production.
Well, I love what you said there. The best learning you got was right there in the trenches.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm a career learner. I'd be in college forever if it were free, but there is no replacement for the experience I gain on a day-to-day, week-to-week, year-to-year. So I love how you highlighted that. Did you reach out to them to acquire this company, or how did this all go down?
It was such almost like a fairy tale. And I say that jokingly, but like we got to know this guy named Bud, and we were just talking, like we go to Starbucks with him and just say, hey, we're looking to expand. And, and what do you think? And he says, well, I've got a good group, a really great, group of candy makers. And so you have volume and distribution. I have the team. If there's a way to work together, how do we do it? And his thing is he built this business for his staff. So he's like, I don't want you to, fire my team. Like, he wanted to protect his people. And we were like, absolutely. We want to learn from this great team. And so once he got to know us and understood what we want to do, and he said, I think this is a great idea. I think we should, if you buy my business, I'll stay on for 6 months, a year. And, he stayed on for a lot longer than that. And we worked together and did just really great things. And it was just so authentic. It was so fun. Like every day we would go in and, literally cook caramel and literally make truffles. And that was 10 years of my life. And then my brother came into the business and really learned from our head candy maker. So he kind of took my job as one of the head candy makers at a young age. So I had to create a new job for myself, which is fine. There's a lot of things to do in the business as we grew, which was great because I was able to really go out and build our national sales division and help grow the business. But I if I look back of I started making candy. I started working, at like 6 or 8 or 10 years old, whatever you want to put the first starting date. I'm coming up to 40 years old. So it's been decades. And if I were to say like, what's the best 3 years of my chocolate career, it was in that building at Lake Forest. I mean, like it was it was a little retail store in the front, candy kitchen in the back. And like, we had a screen door that we would have open in the back. So, and we would just look out and just like people would be walking around. It was just like, as we're just stirring like a pot of a kettle of sugar. Like it was just so fun. And now it's hairnets and gloves and food safety regulations and auditing team. And, it's like a whole engineering team. It's like, the infrastructure of the building is so dense because of the growth. And there was just a day that we had 5 employees that made candy, and it was,
It sounds like just a great company culture and atmosphere you want to be a part of. But I'd love to dive a little deeper. You mentioned we're stirring the caramel, we're stirring the sugar. Did you outsource these ingredients locally, internationally? Because I know you said you were in the sales division, you were growing this company. I know there's costs involved. So how did you go about?
We always say that we use the entire world as our marketplace. And so truly, the chocolate recipe that we use, that, chocolate is this crazy supply chain where the cocoa beans come from West Africa, and then they're brought into the United States to be, roasted and grinded and processed and made into chocolate. At Bissinger's, we still have all of that production for the chocolate itself in Europe, and then that comes over to the United States. But we get candied fruits from Europe and from France. We have sugar, so we work with some local distributors that bring in the cane sugar and some of the flavors, but lots of flavors, extracts are coming from Germany and Europe and France. And so, Bissinger's 350 years, half of it was in Paris and half of it's been the United States. And so our ingredient mix is about 50-50, 50% Europe, 50% domestic.
That is incredible. And I love your passion behind what you do, because that is what we need as entrepreneurs. If there's any new ones listening on, find something you love as much as he loves this. But now let's dive in. We're talking where are you at exactly? If there's any locals or people visiting the area, where can they come check you out?
So we're in St. Louis, Missouri now. Bissinger's has been in St. Louis since 1927, so just a few years before me. So we're excited, almost coming up to the 100-year anniversary in St. Louis, which is funny because 100 years is quite a milestone. The company is 350 years old. So the 100-year anniversary of St. Louis is not even scratching the surface of this brand, which is just mind-boggling. But yeah, started in Paris, France, moved to the United States in 1845, St. Louis in 1927. We have 3 retail boutiques in St. Louis, but also the product can be found at Bissingers.com and then in specialty accounts nationwide like Barnes & Noble.
Oh, very cool. Now, strategic partnerships, Barnes & Noble, others. What do you look for in these companies before you bring them on? What do they have to check the boxes, if you will?
Well, the Bissinger's product, it's such a special handmade artisan brand. And, it's the packaging, the product, everything, handmade candy is not inexpensive. And so we won't survive on a shelf in a mass market retailer. You have to be in a specialty store where, premium and luxury products are sold to be complementary. Otherwise, it's not going to work, because the worst thing we can do is infill a big account, 2,000 store, excuse me, you always have those dreams of like that 2,000 store account, and then you get it and then it fails. To me, that is the worst thing as a manufacturer that we can do, because you ramp up, and then it fails, so we look at success on the reorder, not the initial order. And so we love working with, these boutiques and luxury department stores and luxury accounts and specialty stores that truly appreciate a gourmet premium product. And then it works really well. So we know that we will never be able to go everywhere. However, every single piece is handmade. And so, there truly is a capacity, constraint that we're also have to work with as well.
When this airs, things may change, but now we're recording this very beginning of summer. We have some tariff issues going on, right? We're not getting political. We're not going red or blue, everyone. Don't worry. But what we are talking about is how small businesses and large businesses are affected by internationally sourcing ingredients. In this case, are you held up at all?
We're more concerned we're in a cocoa crisis right now. So 2023 chocolate was hovering at about $2,800 a metric ton. Today it's $11,000. Yeah. So chocolate, we are paying tens of thousands of dollars a week more for chocolate. It's a really, really major, the number one purchase in the company is chocolate. Mm-hmm. And then everything from there, labor, overhead, ingredients, packaging, everything is after that. So the number one expensive chocolate. So that's a major change for us, and we're trying to navigate it the best we can. We're trying to do some micro price increases, but it's got to the point where it's been going on for now over a year, and there's just nothing we can do. There's nothing, we've tried to hold, so what we do is we've been passing the increase only, not margin growth. Okay. So if it's going to cost 50 cents more a box because of the price of chocolate, that we just charge 50 cents more a box versus 50, versus the margin difference. And so we're eroding our margin a little bit, but our customers are, it's like our family. So we don't want to have a shock and awe to our customers, because we don't want to lose customers over this. It's not their fault. It's not our fault, but we're dealing with it. So tariffs we hear about them, but it's like so far downstream the issue because of the chocolate pricing is so high right now. That's the biggest thing that keeps us up at night and that we're navigating through right now.
Where is the number one chocolate export? Which country?
Africa. I think it's about 60% of all cocoa comes from Africa. And that's really so they're having some environmental issues. And honestly, I hear different stories, like not enough rain, too much rain. Like, I don't know where the rain, they're also having, I know that there's a lot of the cocoa trees developed a virus, I believe in 2024, called swollen shoot virus. That's hurting the yield. But it's it's truly because and so can a different part is there a different part of the world? Because you can only grow cocoa 20 degrees north or south of the equator. So we don't have a lot of places that chocolate can be grown, or chocolate can be harvested. But, hopefully there's different parts of the world right now that there's planting a lot of cocoa pods and cocoa, to make, and that in a couple of years, we can kind of restabilize this, because the demand for chocolate is through the roof. And I don't want to ever do anything else other than chocolate. So I hope that we can still keep getting it.
I think you'll get to the bottom of it. I mean, 350 years plus another company. I think you have some skills in your tool chest there to keep it going. Do you see yourselves expanding outside the Midwest in the American stores?
Yeah, we're really looking into that right now.
Very cool.
There's a lot of irons in the fire about that as far as how do we do that. And that's really been probably the biggest conversation piece for 2025 is what's that next growth trajectory. And I would say we're coming very close to some announcement, but not ready just yet. But I would say, there's years in the business. There's years in the business where there's growth years, and then and whatever. Like sometimes it's packaging and design where we just go crazy and redo the whole packaging. And some years, like right now, we're building a multi-million-dollar factory expansion behind me. We're doubling the size of our factory. There's construction going on. We're about 3 months away from moving into this new beautiful space. Amazing. And so that's happening. So this is one of those years where we're just going crazy with, capital investment and growth and expansion. And then there's years where we just say, like, okay, we just spent, a bunch of money, new equipment, new facility, new packaging design. Let's go out and sell it, but this is not one of those years. This is one of those years where every day, it's a new, 10 things happened yesterday. Like it was just, amazing. So it's so exciting. It's kind of like this adrenaline rush that you get every day where things keep falling into place and you're kind of running with it. And I don't know if we'll ever get to normal, because my family is as crazy as I am. And we're like, every time we hit like a sales goal or hit some benchmark, we're like, let's break through it. Let's try to break, and so we never know what the ceiling is. We just want to keep doing it.
And that's what entrepreneurship is, right? Every day, 10 things go wrong that aren't even expected to go wrong on top of a list of things that we already need to do. But that's the beautiful thing. We've talked about so much. You've absolutely crushed it. But I love to round out each show with asking a little more about you. If you could choose any entrepreneur, dead or alive, to pick their brain, it doesn't have to be a chocolate entrepreneur, but it can. Who would you choose to learn from?
That's a great question. If I probably put another 20, 30 minutes of thought into it, I would probably come up with a different answer. But I'm going to say first one that I can think of is Steve Jobs.
Okay.
Absolutely. I've read so much about him, learned so much about him, and his affinity for design and kind of pulling, the impossible out of, just say, well, they say it's impossible. Say, well, it's impossible now. We're just going to figure out how to do it. And I feel like that drive is so important. And I just, I think he's going to be one of those people where 200 years from now, his name is going to be up there with, like a Benjamin Franklin. I just am so impressed and would love to have that conversation with him.
Would you have the conversation Midwest, or would you go out to the Apple factory?
I'd go wherever. I'm sure I'd go to him. You know, he used to be famous for taking walks around California, so I'm sure I would get the best yield to be in his comfort zone, which would be in his backyard.
And that's what it is. You always want to be where they're most comfortable so you can get the most value. And I absolutely love your choice. Love everything you brought to this show. And everyone, if you're catching the stream after it goes live on the video, before we go live, it's BISSINGERS.com. I've got it up here. Can we connect with you anywhere else? You on LinkedIn? Where else can we say hello?
Yep, on LinkedIn as well. And then I'm always around in St. Louis, either whether we're in our retail stores or our production facility. I just go back and forth all the time.
You a Rams fan?
Oh, that hurts.
I mean, they were the best there.
Yep. They left. They kind of left, and they left on bad terms. Cardinals fan though. Cardinals fan, Blues fan. Was a Rams fan at one time.
I grew up. I remember Marshall Faulk.
Kurt Warner, Marshall Faulk. Those were the good days. I mean, they really were. There was a lot of excitement.
I mean, you see what I deal with every year, so I always like to live through others who have seen some success, so I can at least get a preview of what it's like. But like entrepreneurship, the Jets, they'll pull your heart out, but you still have to love them enough to continue, just like your business. Dan, I can't thank you so much for joining us across the country today. Everyone, I'm going to flash his website right now, but I took it down so you can see his name. Dan Abel Jr. Connect with him on LinkedIn. And again, his website is BISSINGERS.com. Today's show is brought to you by Coming Alive Podcast Production. And I thank you for tuning in to keep this show a top 2.5% global show. Be sure to subscribe to stay current with the next entrepreneur. And today is brought to you by Coming Alive Podcast Production.com. And with that, we are signing off. Only one of us has good chocolate to eat today, but we're both happy, Dan. Thank you so much.
Thank you.